So on this week's episode of Be More Super, the podcast, I just can't believe I've got this man on. He's been in so many things that I absolutely love, from The Purge that has just been on Amazon Prime, which I'm not going to spoil it, but you've got to watch it. It's fantastic. 13 Hours, Spectral, Saving Private Ryan, and soon to be released in the UK is Sergeant Will Gardner. Max Martini, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
And how has everything been since the lockdown and everything like that in terms of work?
Well, in terms of work, Hollywood shut down pretty quick.
Yeah.
So the Purge was actually the last thing that I did. That was in November. And
right.
Yeah, it's been a tough, it's been a bit of a grind for Hollywood, but and I had a movie to direct in March, I believe, and so obviously we had to push that. So as soon as we're up and running, which I feel like we're getting close to that. I know that productions are gearing up, and some are actually starting to quarantine crews and actors in preparation.
Yeah.
For filming, but we're looking for a location that makes sense, and then I'll be back in the directing chair.
Excellent. And before we explore the great projects that you've done and that are coming our way, let's explore your early life, because every story's got a beginning, a middle, and, well, not an end yet. So how did you get into this wonderful industry of acting?
Wow. Well, I was born in New York. My mother is from Texas, and my mother was in law enforcement in Texas. So she and my father, who was Italian, an artist from Rome, they separated, and my mother remarried an actor, director, writer, producer named Stuart Margolin. And he has 2 Emmy Awards, wonderful actor, character actor, and an amazing stepfather. So Stuart would throw me into productions as a kid. If he needed one line, he'd go, run over there and say this. And so I got a taste of it. I think it's in my early years, and I went to college not with the intention of, or rather with the intention of pursuing something else. And when I got out of college, I owed $150,000 for university.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so coincidentally, I was offered an audition. I did the audition and I sent it to LA, and they flew me to Hollywood, and I got the job in this big Hollywood movie. And then the casting woman said, "Hey, these are not easy to come by, and you should give this a shot, because now you've got some momentum,
Yeah.
There's a bit of a wave you can ride." And so I stayed in Hollywood, man, and I ended up, doing reasonably well. I mean, I'm very lucky.
And how was that journey? What was the biggest challenge? Because everyone says that, the streets are paved with gold in Tinseltown. But what was the biggest challenge for you for making it in the business?
I think the biggest challenge is remaining true to yourself, and remaining humble,
Yeah.
and thankful, and someone that is unaffected by success, and that people want to be around.
Yeah.
And quite honestly, that's having been in Hollywood for so many years, those are the people that rise to the top and find longevity in this world, because ultimately at the end of the day, it's about who you want to work with.
Yeah.
There's when I'm up for a role, there's hundreds of actors in Hollywood, maybe thousands even, that would die for these parts that I've been fortunate enough to do. But I think at the end of the day, they choose the competent actor that they want to spend 6 months on set with. So
yeah.
That's my advice to anyone coming to Hollywood. Is don't get too cocky, because burn out quick.
Awesome. And at any point, did you want to pack it all in and pursue a career in art, because you did art as well, didn't you?
Yeah, I miss that actually. I was so in love with making artwork, and and I was surrounded by it as a kid, and I used to hang out in my dad's foundry while he was making these big, bronze pieces.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's completely out of my future. I think that there's a place somewhere down the road that I'm gonna, try to create for myself to make artwork in. But look, I mean, I love what I'm doing. And actually, oddly, now that I'm getting into directing, I'm finding that I'm using more of my art degree in that seat,
Yeah.
because I'm using a different part of my brain that I haven't accessed since art school. So,
Yeah.
uh,
And then your early career. I've got to ask this: is it a requirement for all actors to be in Walker Texas Ranger? Because everyone I've interviewed has appeared in Walker
has
Texas
everybody done
Ranger.
it?
Yeah, everyone has starred on that program.
That was a pivotal moment in my career, playing the date rapist in Walker Texas Ranger. Uh,
But the
That's so
re
funny you said that. I think that show went on for so long that eventually everyone had done it.
and of course they're remaking it as well, aren't they? So
Yeah.
that's coming to our screens very, very soon. So what would you say was your big break that you consider as your big break in the business?
Well, I mean, my first big movie was Contact, that Robert Zemeckis directed, and Jodie Foster. Great cast, Matthew
Yeah.
McConaughey. I mean, just a huge cast. Uh, I'm a much better actor now, but I think that opportunity afforded me, or got me into the door with Spielberg, and then I got Private Ryan right on the heels of Contact. So, but I'm going to say Private Ryan because I play a lot of different kinds of characters, but the big productions have chosen me as the go-to soldier. So,
Yeah.
uh, and here's the other thing that's interesting is that Private Ryan. Not only was it great for my career, but it also is responsible for shaping, who I am today. I mean, it's really taken me down a road, you know, of appreciation for our veteran community, and it's uh, it's responsible for all the charity work that I do on the side
Yeah.
with veterans, and it really opened my mind and my eyes. When I did it, I was a young guy without, a sense of who I was politically, who I didn't ever really have. I was still forming my opinion of,
Yeah.
politics of the world and our military,
Mm.
and so
I
it
mean,
changed me in a big
uh,
way.
what was it like working with Spielberg? Because I know obviously now you direct. I mean, back then, did you have that bug to direct, and did you get any hints and tips from Spielberg by watching what he was doing on set?
When I saw Avatar for the first time, I saw it on a massive screen.
Yeah.
I remember being in the theater. I'd never seen anything like that kind of photography, those effects, in a movie, and just being completely wide-eyed in awe of what, they had put together, and just dumbfounded. And that was my reaction walking onto the set of Private Ryan, because it was on an airfield in Hatfield.
Hatfield, yes, I've been to
Yeah.
Hatfield plenty of times.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so you would walk, all you saw approaching the set were the back of the facades.
Yeah.
So 2x4s and plywood, and then once you entered into the set, it was the whole, they had recreated the bridge and the town. And I mean, every piece of rubble was brought in, and it was the biggest thing that I'd ever seen in my life. And I wasn't nervous.
Yeah.
I was working with Tom Hanks and Tom Sizemore, who at the time, I had respected. He's become a little bit of a shit show, but
Yeah.
the world was overwhelming, man, and it was really cool. It just kind of it sold me on the business, you know,
Yeah.
and working in something that was so perfectly created and on such a big scale, it made it so easy to act, you know. I mean, because you really believed it helps reinforce your belief in where you are, and you know, and the situations and the people you're dealing with. They all make believe, but the scale helps get you there, you know.
And what an awesome movie. I mean, they need to keep making movies like that, because I think that our youngsters, you know, are losing touch with, you know, World War One and Two. I mean, if you ask a teenager now, what year did World War Two start and finish, they wouldn't know.
Yeah,
So, you know, films like Saving Private Ryan and Band of Brothers and The
yeah.
Pacific and programs like that, I just think are fantastic, and we need those. So, going on to one of the best movies I've ever seen in my whole life, until I get to see Sergeant Will Gardner, of course, is this bad boy here. 13 hours. I'm pleased to say that I've been chatting with Mark Geist, and he's actually going to come on the show.
Oh, I'm so happy.
So, you know what, I just thought it was perfect. So let's, before we talk about Mark, well, did you know about everything that was going on in Benghazi before you actually went for the role of
Well,
Mark
I
Geist?
was aware. I was aware of. Look, I thought I was aware of what had happened there, and
Yeah,
you know, and then I got the part in the movie, and then I read the book, and there was a lot of information in the book and the movie that I was not aware of.
yeah,
So I think, you know, on that level it was very informative, and also speaking to Mark and you know, Tig and Tonto and all the other guys, you learn a lot more
yeah,
from the guys who were there. But look, you know, it's so cool. You know, I just to touch on something you said earlier, you know, just to be part of these movies, that the retelling of these events, these historical events, you know.
yeah.
um, Private Ryan was based on a true story, you know. It, it's a film, you know. You realize how what a great tool it is, you know, what a great medium it is, because you know, it's entertaining, but you're also educating, you know, potentially, if you know, if it's used.
Yeah. So as a rundown for the movie, so you play Mark Geist, call sign Oz, a real person, and this all happened in September 2012. Um, you know, there was a CIA base, and to be fair, do you want to explain it? You'll probably explain it a bit better than me.
Yeah, it was a makeshift embassy, and the ambassador named Chris Stevens was living there. He was advised that it was not safe, and you know, and on the eve of September 11th, there was an attack, and a bad one, you know, and so the CIA annex, which was very close where these contractors were, they went to deal with the embassy, and you know, there was a long battle. They called for help. I mean, without giving the movie away, nobody came until the 11th hour. But and then there's all the politics involved, which I won't.
Yeah, yeah. This is the first time you've ever played a real person. Um, was
Yeah.
that like in the way of Mark Geist? You know, what was it very daunting to know that you were playing someone that was real, and you know, the pressure that you had with that?
Uh, the only other time I did play someone real was in Captain Phillips. So there was actually the
Oh, of
SEAL
course, yeah, yeah, the SEAL commander.
operation was a real guy, but Mark, the experience of working with it. Look, I was a little nervous of going in, just because there's a lot of. I thought there was going to be a lot of pressure, you know,
Mm,
and you know, when I approach a role. I try to carve out sort of a journey, you know, and make it emotional and bring, you know, some humanity to the role, especially a soldier.
Mm.
You know, that's, you don't want to just be a guy in green barking orders. But considering that this was a real story and that Mark was a real person and that he was likely going to be there, I was like, oh, I was worried about, you know, just I wanted to get it right for him because you want to do honor to their experience, and you'll find out what a great guy he is. He's really he made it so we hit it off. We have the same birthday. We hit it off immediately.
Yeah.
And although wait a second, he may be December the 13th. I'm the 11th. I think we may be seven. But we, you know, he was so forthcoming and with information and you know, these guys wanted so desperately to get this story out and to get the truth of what happened out on that day, that it became the most perfect collaboration out of the gate, you know.
Yeah. I mean, putting politics aside, you know, the story of 13 Hours is just so inspiring. I've got to say, you know, after finishing watching the movie, you know, holding back the tears. Well, actually, I won't lie, I cried. There's nothing wrong with crying. And I've got to say, I hugged my family tighter. You know, I appreciated my wife and my kids, and what they went through. I mean, it was just an astonishing film. It really, really was. And of course, it was directed by Michael Bay, who else is going to do a great action film?
You know, in arguably in my mind the best film that he's ever made. I mean,
Yeah.
I really I love his Hollywood movies, you know, but I think he has a deal, if I remember correctly, with Paramount, in that he gets to make one passion project a year if he does the other films. Um, he was also very committed to you know, the story, and they took a little creative license. Look, some of the explosions are a little Michael Bay big,
Yeah.
but you know, but like I said, he was committed to telling it like it happened, and you know, and I've gotten nothing but amazing feedback from people that have seen that film. So.
I mean, you've done quite a few, you know, parts as playing military personnel. You know, for this role, because obviously you was in the unit, you've done Saving Private Ryan. What was the training like for this for 13 hours? Because, you know, was it any different to the training that you had before?
Yeah, it was. I mean, generally the live fire weapons training that I have is done on the offset, not having to do anything with production. So I actually I go to the gun range and train on my own. So, and I have a lot of friends, you know, tier 1 operators. So I'm lucky that I get to work with these guys. But the 13 hours training we did in Los Angeles. We did a facility that's out by the Reagan Library, a big, wide open outdoor range, and it was all live fire training. I mean, uh, we went through. I'm trying to think. There was a lot of physical endurance training, and then a lot of weapons training, and there was some classwork stuff that we did because the contract world is a little different than you know, playing an enlisted military guy. So
Yeah.
um, the behavior's different, the mindset's different. You're already an accomplished tier 1 operator. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's a little bit of a cowboy attitude, you know, but so there was that, and then, you know, and then aside from that, the training was, you know, as an actor, it was like just me and Mark, man. I mean, on calls or, you know, over beers or whatever, and figuring out who he was and what the important elements to bring to the screen were, you know.
And the resemblance is uncanny. I
On
saw, yeah, I saw an interview, and someone said that you'd sat in. Well, you didn't. Mark sat in the back of the car during a shoot, and no one knew.
Yeah, well, so Bay was directing, and I slipped out of the car, and we put Mark in, and I went back behind the monitor, behind Michael's chair, and he called action, and the scene started. And I mean, they were well into the scene before he realized that it was Mark. He was Max, and you know, but there, when they sent me the script, there were a couple characters that were open, and they said, you know, choose who you want to play, and or who you want to audition for, rather, and I pulled up some interviews of you know, these Mark and Tig and Tonto, and I looked at him. I was like, God, I look. I mean, I don't now with this.
Yeah, you've had a.
I look. He and I have a weird resemblance to each other. It's pretty crazy.
Which is good. Which is good.
Yeah, well, I was like, there's literally no else I could play in this movie. I mean,
yeah. I mean, what's your favorite memory of 13 hours of being on set?
you know, when you do these war movies, you know, I think one of the most important things that you need to accomplish as a cast, as a group, is the brotherhood and the camaraderie. Like you have to you can't fake that. That's why these training sessions are so important, you know, because they, like for Private Ryan, we went out, you know, and we were living out of tents, you know, and training out in the field. And there's a famous military technical advisor named Dale Dye that used to do all the big movies, the big combat films, and that was his big thing. Is, you know, we're gonna go out and we're gonna take these wussy actors and we're gonna turn them into soldiers, you know. But in the process of doing that, you know, you develop this bond. So the cool thing about 13 Hours is that they cast all these alpha males, you know, and so we got out on the gun range. We were having competitions. We were going out for beers. We were, you know, and at rap every night, we were in Malta, you know,
Yeah.
not a bad place to shoot. And we'd all have beers and we'd sit around and turn the music up. And, you know, when everybody else was going home, we'd be out there, you know, just hanging out. And those memories were really wonderful. And also sitting out, you know, on the deck of the hotel with Mark and the real guys and having drinks and you know, I think that's the stuff you pull away from it, because at the end of the day now, like I've done so many films that it's, you know, I love making movies. I love being an actor, but I also love this community because
Yeah, of course.
really wonderful people involved.
I mean, what I wanted to ask as well before we move on to your exciting project that's coming over to the UK is obviously, you know, Mark Geist got injured quite severely within that attack. You know, obviously you had to act as Mark Geist and have those injuries. I mean, how was that for you? You know, having to go through that, knowing, you know, that that actually happened to him.
Yeah, that was, you know, that was really maybe the biggest hurdle for me was, you know, I needed to know what kind of pain he went through, you know, and what his arm looked like, and what, you know, and it's tough asking somebody to relive that experience. And I think, you know, but he gave it to me, and he gave me, he was very descriptive.
Right.
And, you know, look, I mean, it doesn't play so much on screen. You know, I think a lot of it, you know, a lot of these guys, when they recount the experience of being shot at or, you know, being hit with shrapnel, a lot of times they don't realize that it's happening, or it just feels like little bee bites, you know, and then you look down and you've been hit, you know.
Yeah.
So, but you know, but that for me, that was the big hurdle, because that's, you know, he's the one that came away alive, but you know, dangerously injured. So
Yeah. but he's here to tell the story, and
And by the way, that arm that they completely recreate, it was it was shredded. He and I were in the gym lifting weights, and I mean, he's pretty amazing work what they did with that arm. I mean, he's back using it. So
that's awesome. But no, what an amazing film! It's probably the closest I will get to something like that, and be in the safety of my front room at home, to be fair. So let's talk about your exciting new film coming over to the UK. I know it's been released in the US already. It's, of course, as you can see up there, Sergeant Will Gardner. I've got to say Gardner because my surname is Garner. So loads of people put the D in by accident. So, Sergeant Will Gardner, please tell me about the movie, what it's about, and, everything about it.
Yeah, so this the idea for this film came while I was shooting a TV series called The Unit, and during the filming of The Unit, I had the opportunity to go to Iraq and Afghanistan twice, and I befriended a young Army Ranger in Iraq that I stayed in touch with. And at a certain point in our correspondence, he had survived 2 IEDs, one of which took his entire team. He was the only survivor, and he was experiencing, and just decided to use me as a sounding board, mind you, but sleeplessness and anger issues and things that were symptomatic of traumatic brain injury, which was new at the time, and he was scared to go forward and ask for help. He was scared, for fear of being ridiculed or stigmatized, and so it inspired me to write a movie that would give back to charity and help returning soldiers that, found themselves suffering from emotional or physical ailments or injuries rather. And so look, it was inspired by by these correspondences, the correspondence with my buddy, but the movie is entertaining. It has a comedic through line. It packs a good punch. The wonderful thing about it is that 30% of the profits are going to 3 charities receiving 10% each that do incredible work for our veteran community. There was a large British presence in the Middle East, and I have a lot of British friends that have served or are serving, and so I think it'll resonate in Britain, but the profits will go to help soldiers here. So.
Well, the great thing is 50% of my listeners and viewers are actually in the States. So, hopefully, if they haven't seen it, they should watch it. So, you wrote, directed, produced, and starred in the movie as the lead. And can I just say, your beard in that movie is epic from the trailer. Enormous, it's enormous. What possessed you to do all those roles? I mean, could you not get someone else to do other things and then you
I'll
start
tell you
and stop?
This is exactly what happened. We had I had a different actor attached to play the lead. I had a different director at a certain point,
Right.
different cinematographer, and when we got the money, nobody was available. And my producing partner and I sat down, and he went, "Well, buddy, I think you're up," and so I was like, "Oh my God." But it was the best experience I've had in my career. I knew the role. I wrote it. I know I was friends with the guy that inspired me to write it, and it came out exactly the way I wanted it to, and my fear of turning it over to somebody else was that I was going to end up with someone's interpretation of what I envisioned, and so it played out the way it was supposed to. direct messages that I have gotten on social media from veterans, and this is not an exaggeration, thousands and
Really?
thousands. Oh my God. And I mean, too many to go through, but bring you to tears. And,
Yeah.
you know, and I think what it is it's something, because what I wanted to do was to write a movie that inspired suffering soldiers to ask for help, to come forward and get help. And then also once you've received help, and once you've gone through a process of healing and you've come out on the other side, to then assume the responsibility of helping other soldiers go through the same process, so that we can get our men and women in uniform back into society and functioning. Because there's so many on the streets of America, and I'm sure Britain, you know, that are homeless or that are too injured to figure out how to navigate a healthcare system that, you know, is archaic, or how to, you know, function, you know, post-combat in a world and, you know, without any sort of medical attention. So there's a very important cause behind the film, and please support it. I really, I know I can confidently say that you know, everyone's going to love the movie because it's hilarious, and like I said, it'll bring some tissue with you, but there's a wonderful cause, and you know, here's the cool thing, man, is that once I said, okay, we're doing this, I'm going to direct it, I'll star in it. Gary Sinise came on, you know, Robert Patrick came on, Dermot Mulroney came on, Omari Hardwick from Power came on. We just suddenly, this cast just came together, and it was fate, you know. It's really
and did they come onto the project because of what the project was about? Because you know, as you said, it wasn't a massive budget movies, and those actors, as well as yourselves, you know, you've done many big production. Like Pacific Rim and stuff like that. So it's wonderful to see Gary Sinise does a hell of a lot for veterans. Even I know that in the UK. But the thing is, the shocking thing for me is I've been over to America quite a few times. I've been to Washington, I've been to Dallas, I've been to New York loads of times, and I've been to a lot of football games. I've been to hockey, and you know. And I just think it's amazing how patriotic America can be. You know, they stand up, they give respect to the armed forces, but then it's the aftermath that I think that is lacking, and it's the same in this country as well. You know, we've got on average, I think I've got it here, over 3,500 homeless military personnel, and it's shocking because in my eyes, they should be given a house. They should be looked after. You know, they have gone over and done stuff that I couldn't ever imagine. And, you know, they haven't been given the support. And another thing as well, to make everyone aware, I read, please correct me if I'm wrong, but there's one suicide every 65 minutes in the US. You know, people that were in the armed forces that commit suicide every 65 minutes.
Astounding statistics. I don't know where it is today, but there were reportedly 22 veteran suicides daily. I think at any given moment, and this is a very difficult number to predict because,
of course, yeah.
But they estimate 60 to 70,000 homeless veterans on the streets of America at any given moment. When I finished the script, so let's say I want to say like I'm not because I don't want to get it wrong. But it's at one point during the process of this filming, there were 300,000 cases of combat-related cases of traumatic brain injury. And there was a 2015 Inspector General's report that stated that 300,000 veterans died awaiting pending healthcare claims. So these are veterans that are in the system that are awaiting their claims and pass away during that, that time in the queue. So it's, the numbers are inexcusable. And, look, I'm trying to inspire not only veterans to come forward, but I'm trying to inspire people that haven't served to this is a chance to serve your country. This is a chance, even where you are, this is a chance, for you to return the favor, to those that put their lives on the line and, and fight for your freedom. And it's,
so what can the people of America and the people around the world do? Except, obviously they can watch Sergeant Will Gardner because 30% goes to the charities. But what would you like people doing more of, in the way of support?
I would, in a perfect world, there's people that dedicate spare time to helping veterans. I mean, there's so many ways to do it. And there's so many charities, and thank God there's so many charities because they're they pick up where, for instance, our VA fails. But, one of the wonderful things about this movie is just watching it, you're helping the cause. I mean, if you're not interested in the subject matter, turn it on, mute it, and walk away. But you're still helping. You know what I mean? It's so I just think that and this is, look, in terms of foreign policy in the United States, it's like I'm all for helping, sending assistance to other countries, but we have such a crisis in our own country, with our veterans, and these are men and women that start out as kids, and I can say kids because I've been there. And the first thing that you see, that hits you when you get off of a C-130 in Iraq is a sea of pimply faces, and you go, my God, these are, these guys are in there. I mean, the 18 to 22 years old. They're just adults, and we go to strip malls and we recruit them into our armed forces, so that when they pass through on the other end, you can't abandon them. You have to be there, and you have to. They like you said, they should receive red carpet healthcare treatment.
Yeah, I mean, to let everyone know though, the movie is going to be available on Apple from the 23rd. So I'm definitely, I've pre-ordered it, so I'll be definitely watching it on the 23rd. So what is next for you? Because, I've seen something about a zombie movie.
Yeah, so this is hilarious. I right after Will Gardner, which, was a very, there is a comedic through line, but it was a serious movie. I got a script from a buddy of mine that was a zombie film, and I went, oh God, like this is the last thing that I want to do. But it was so funny that, I thought, okay, this is a good break from what I just came off of. So we went and made this zombie movie, which hopefully will be coming out streaming, I'm going to say November-ish. And it came out so well that we got the funding to make the sequel. So the first movie is called The Manson Brothers Midnight Zombie Massacre. And the second movie is called The Manson Brothers Satanic Vampire Deathmatch. And they're balls to the wall comedies. I haven't been this excited about releasing something in a long time. People are going to love these movies.
It sounds like something from the 70s, the title.
100%.
Which is awesome.
Yeah.
So thank you so much. I'm going to wrap the interview up. I'll let you get on with your day of fun, I hope. But before we go, what makes you happy?
What makes me happy?
Yeah.
Wow. My kids, which is an obvious answer, but I'm going to say exploring my heritage. I mentioned that my dad was Italian, and going to Italy and eating the food and being with my family in Italy and really, absorbing myself into that culture. I'm the happiest. I love it so much. You're right.
That is awesome. Well, Max Martini, thank you so much for being on Be More Super, the podcast.